Happy Monday with the Mavens on a Tuesday.
Hello, we are so excited to be here. We are talking all things energy. So how to naturally boost your energy, how to sustain your energy, how to preserve your energy, all things energy, because my goodness.
We all want it. We all need it.
Yeah, and life is just so stinking full for most of us that the more energy we can have, like good, sustained, non-jittery, healthy energy, the better. So
I'm just gonna
we're so glad that some of you guys are joining in. If at any time you guys have questions, want to join the discussions, have a tip of your own, absolutely, please put it in the comments and we will do our best to pay attention to that. We are on both Facebook and Instagram, so if we're looking both places, that is why. So
we'll get that figured out someday. Yeah. I made a little bit of forward progress on it a little bit
earlier.
Yeah, so we'll get there.
Never at the top of our priority list.
Because what happens is we only have so many energy credits a day, right? And we use those on different things, and researching like live streaming options is not high on the energy output list for me.
It's a true fact.
And this works.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not ideal, but it works.
It works. Okay, guys, let's talk energy. Can you first explain, like, what even is energy? How is it made?
Yeah. Well, we all have energy, right? And we all need energy to get through our day. So the easiest way to think about it is you take something in. It's like a car, right? In order for your car to go, you have to put fuel in your car.
Or electricity.
You need to have something that is going to give energy to the being that needs it. So in our case as humans, we take in food in the form of protein, carbs, carbohydrates, macros. We take those in and then our body metabolizes those things in order to give us energy. And so let's just take carbohydrates, for example. We take in, let's say we eat an apple. That apple goes into our body. We start digesting it. All of our digestive enzymes take whatever nutrients and whatever things it can use, the sugars, and it puts all of that into our bloodstream. Our blood sugar goes up, which is good. We want that to happen. And then our pancreas and our liver starts producing insulin. The insulin then pulls the sugar out of our blood and starts putting it into our muscles, into our organs, into our tissues, all of the things that require energy, into our cells. So then when we need to exert ourselves, we have the energy stored in our muscles in order to do that. So in the morning when we go to the gym, I go to the gym fasted, Emmy goes to the gym fasted every morning. We have enough, it's called glycogen. When it gets stored into our muscles, then that energy it's called ATP, which I wrote down because I didn't want to forget what it actually stood for, which is adenosine triphosphate, otherwise known as ATP, and glycogen. And so that is stored in our muscles. And then when we go somewhere, like if you need to sprint or you go to the gym or you need to get up and go for a walk, then that energy that's stored in our muscles is what is released in order to help your muscles constrict and stretch out so that you can perform the things that you need to do. If you eat dinner, most people eat dinner. If you eat at night, then all of that extra energy is stored in your body, whether it's stored as fat, because energy does get stored as fat, or stored in our muscles.
Especially if you don't utilize all of it.
Yeah. So what happens is if you don't utilize the glycogen that's within your muscles and whatnot, then your body will reconvert it into fat, which you don't want. So if you go to the gym fasted, typically if you do that in the mornings, you have enough ATP and glycogen stored to get you through your workout without any problem. I heard something not that long ago and I was thinking about it. I was at my son's track meet. He's a sprinter. He runs the 4x100, the 100, and the 200. And you have enough ATP stored in your muscles at any given time to sprint for about 25, 30 seconds. And then after that, then your ATP is gone, it's spent. And so then your body has to recreate this ATP and put it back into your muscles in order for you to do it again. So that's why, like, if you watch the Olympics, you have a 100-meter sprinter who's going to sprint one time that day, maybe two, because their energy has to be replenished, and our body just doesn't do it like that. So anyway, that's kind of the basic overall of you take food in, you create energy that gets stored in your body, and then you output the energy throughout your day.
That was a really good explanation.
Well, thanks, buddy.
Yeah. And the thing is that there are ways to do that strategically so that you're getting good, consistent, sustained energy and that you're not then storing the excess as fat, and so that you're getting the best cognitive function as well.
The most bang for your buck when it comes to energy.
It's funny, all through life, and I don't think, years ago, I don't think I could necessarily identify it, but all through my life, I've been really intrigued by people that I come across that just seem to have that like vibrancy or that consistent, sustained energy in all they do. Like, it's always stood out to me.
Which is funny because that's exactly how she is. This is like the Energizer Rabbit right here.
Well, you should talk.
Well, I try to keep up with this one. It's a lot.
You know, energy has always been so fascinating to me. And I, for a long time, like depleted my energy stores and I just kept going on fumes and it wasn't healthy. And now, not that I always do this, but I know so much better how to like protect and keep my energy high. And, you know, I think that energy can be looked at in a lot of different ways. Like, I don't want to get too woo-woo, but I don't even know if I should say that.
Yeah, there are energy streams in our bodies.
There are.
And I didn't believe it. Well, no, I think I've always believed it, but I don't know if any of you are into acupuncture. Yeah. I went to an acupuncturist. I had a back injury a few years ago, and I was like, I don't know about this, you know. I'm not crazy about needles. I don't know anybody who really is, but I just remember thinking I have a muscular issue in my back. Like, how is acupuncture going to help me?
Yeah.
And I talked to the guy, and he was telling me about how, you know, we have all these energy fields and like almost like energy rivers through our body, and you can manipulate those in different ways. And so I remember he put like a couple needles in my arm, and my toes went, and I was like, whoa, I'm a believer. And it, I don't want to say it healed me, but it definitely helped my healing process. I healed pretty quickly.
Man, I wish I would have printed it out because...
you don't have a...
I don't have my handout with me, but there is this picture that I just... It's so cool. In fact, maybe we'll share it in stories later. It's basically of our electrical system in our body. Like, if you look at our nervous system and you look at all of like the nerves and how the neurons are firing and everything in there, we are just this beautiful... it's like... roots and trees and vines of energy. And so I think that it's really easy when we talk about energy to think about our energy output, which is what we're primarily talking about today, but we also need to protect our energy, how energy is flowing through our body, how we're utilizing it. There are so many things, like the emotional and psychological component of what can dampen our physical energy
or
comes out
suck
in
our energy from
output.
us, like energy vampires. We're going to talk about some of those energy vampires.
We're going to talk about those. We don't want, nobody wants those.
No, I don't want anybody sucking my energy.
No. Okay, so let's just jump in. Let's talk about some strategies for how, first and foremost, you can naturally increase your sustained energy. And so when we talk about energy today, we're going to really talk about that nice, consistent, sustained energy throughout the day so that you're not having those big peaks and those big crashes. Because that also, as we talk about all the time, it's all intertwined, right? When you're doing that, that can have a profound impact on the rest of your systems. It can have an impact on your metabolism, on your brain, on your immune system, on your hormones, all the things. Mm-hmm. So when we are consistently outputting energy, we are doing our bodies a favor. We, I think, should start, because it's kind of our bread and butter. Sorry.
I get it. Wait, macros. It is your bread and butter. It's our bread and butter and our chicken. We'll call it chicken.
Yeah. So sorry, I crack myself out sometimes.
She's funny, this one is.
So honestly, like, one of the best things.
Hold on, I was gonna say, can you fix that?
Yeah.
Thanks.
One of the best things that we can do for ourselves is consistently fuel our body. And what I mean by that is giving our body and our brain what it needs to perform at its best. That looks a little bit different for everybody, but some of the biggest things are going to be getting appropriate fuel. So if you're under eating for too long, if you're in a deficit for too long, you're not doing yourself any favors, and we've talked about that for the longest time. If you're overfueling your body, especially with a lot of processed foods, a lot of nitrates, too much simple carbohydrates, those sorts of things, then you're going to be storing excess fat. It's going to affect your endocrine, your hormone system, your cognitive function, and absolutely your energy stores. So if you're under eating or overeating, it can have a profound impact on your energy as well as everything else. So it's finding that, like, what do you need to fuel your body? And there's a way to go about that, but I think the simplest thing to do is to be focusing on whole foods and getting really all of the macros, getting your fats, getting your complex carbohydrates that are going to give you a more sustained energy flow, and getting your proteins in to really have those amino acids from a restoration standpoint.
Let's talk about that just for a hot second. When we talk about carbohydrates and we talk about simple carbs and complex carbs, you really need to understand the difference between the two, because we all, like I mentioned earlier, like, we get our main energy source, most of our fuel, from carbohydrates. Now, what we don't want to do is we don't want that energy source, those carbohydrates, to come mainly from simple carbs. And unfortunately, I think in a Western society, that's where we get it. We get it from from sugary drinks, from soda, from, Emmy likes to call them floofy coffees, which are loaded with sugar. From candy, processed foods have tons of simple sugars in them. So when we talk about complex carbs and simple carbs, we really want to focus on the complex carbs, which are like vegetables, fruits, fruits with peels, vegetables with peels. You want the fiber that comes with a complex carb more than you want the simple carbs, like breads, grains, sugars. Our bodies process them much differently, and the fiber that's within like fruits and vegetables really helps in the digestive tract in order to pull the proper amount of sugar from those foods and not give us the crazy blood sugar spikes that I didn't talk blood sugar spikes, but when you eat the simple carbs, that's what happens. We get too much blood sugar in our bloodstream, and then we will start storing the extra as fat, and nobody wants that. So keep it complex.
Yeah,
right?
Instead of keep it simple.
Right.
But
Keep it complex when it comes to
carbs. Yeah. You know, so many people talk about that mid-afternoon crash. And I think that that's a really common thing for a lot of people. And I would say that one of the most consistent pieces of feedback that we get from our clients is regarding energy, because they start feeling this like nice steady push throughout the day, including in the afternoon, and they no longer experience that mid-afternoon crash. And a lot of that has to do with understanding hunger, eating, and really the only thing you should accomplish when you eat a meal is fueling yourself and feeling satiated, not over full, and then being able to walk away and feel sustained. Because if you're having a big, like, I remember years back, my husband would come to meet me. I would hop out of the clinic and we would go to, I think it was Si Casa Flores at the time. So it was a Mexican restaurant. I would eat so many chips
Girlfriend
and salsa.
can eat. Like, she is not kidding around.
I would eat like baskets of chips and salsa, my fish tacos, like all the things, which I still love fish tacos. Well, I still have chips and salsa too, but like in moderation. And so I would do that. And sometimes. And you can fit those things in.
Yeah.
Are most chips inflammatory by nature? Yes. Do we suggest that you eat a lot of them regularly? No. But if you have things you love, you can absolutely fit them in.
I eat chips and salsa.
I love chips and salsa.
A lot.
Yeah. Okay, so anyways, so we would go, we would meet, and then, man, I'd get back to work, and like I'm a producer. I want to be a producer. And so I would just feel this like, my brain would be sluggish. I would be tired. And I'm like, I want to be productive. I want to get out of there. I want to get my stuff done. I want to be able to communicate thoroughly. I want to be sharp cognitively. I want all the things. Like, we should all want all the things, and we can have them, honestly.
You can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. That reminds me of your week.
There's a reference there. You can dig around and find a funny video.
The problem is that I was eating from an imbalanced standpoint. So I probably wasn't eating enough in the morning. I would have this huge lunch that was very simple carbohydrate heavy between the chips and the tortillas. And I would get this big spike, this big blood sugar spike that then would be followed by a crash. And so then I would just be like, ugh. And that is so common, especially for, people grinding, and life is full. And if you can set yourself up just a little bit to really have more balanced meals, whether you're doing 2, 3, 4 meals a day, getting the majority of your nutrition in those meals, not necessarily in snacks, making sure you're getting balanced protein, balanced carbohydrates, balanced fats, that they're healthy fats, you're eliminating processed foods, seed oils, and sugar. Like, just nutrition alone will have a profound impact on your cellular health and your energy. Because Haley talked about this, but our mitochondria are like our little energy centers, and we want those babies working for us. Yeah. And if we are confusing our system, we're not properly fueling it, we're underfueling it, we're overfueling it, we're inconsistently fueling it, they're not going to know what to do for us. And so we are not going to be our best selves.
Yeah, and I think that that's also when we do, like, I think it's so typical. I can think back to when I was in college, you know, I'd go to lunch and then I would eat whatever I was eating, a burrito, or I ate bento bowls a lot, like a big deal of rice with like one chicken kebab on it. Like, anyway,
with a bunch of teriyaki sauce.
Yeah, we won't get into it. And then I had an astronomy class, I remember, right afterwards, and so it was in a dark auditorium, and I fell asleep, I'm not kidding, every single day in that class. It was horrible. And then you try to counteract it, right? And so you have a cup of coffee, and it's late in the day. It ends up being like afternoon, and you have a cup of coffee, and then you don't sleep well. And it's like this spiral, this downward spiral that you have to break the chain. And so that's what we want to talk about. How do you break the chain so that you have more sustained energy throughout your day, where you don't need to supplement with caffeine, or, you know, people supplement with soda all the time because soda has caffeine, and that's like a double-edged sword.
Well, and then oftentimes when you're sluggish and you're tired and you're trying to feel, that's also when you like mindlessly snack. And so it's like all of these things go hand in hand. Yeah. And if we can really use food as a tool, like, it's such a powerful tool. It can be medicine. Like, it's amazing what can happen, especially when you start associating good, healthy, whole, delicious. It can be delicious.
It is delicious.
With feeling good.
Man, I love food.
And so it's that whole psychological component that can be really powerful. Okay, so I know we talk about nutrition a ton, but I just really felt like we should start with that.
That's kind of our mojo.
It is our mojo.
The Macro Maven mojo is talking about nutrition.
We like to be mojo makers. It's actually
it is. I was going to say, it's actually part of who we are.
Yeah. I love the word mojo. Hi, guys.
Don't you dare. She's about to start waving at you all. Just do this. Hi, guys. Hi. Okay.
Okay. So we talked about the impact of food, and there's so much more detail we could go into, but we won't. So we talked about the impact of food on our energy. Let's talk about the impact of stress on our energy.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I feel like we talk about it all the time, but it's worth repeating.
We got hearts. Somebody was saying hello back.
Hi. And sorry if you guys get tired of hearing this, but like, stress is like, it is poison. It is toxic to your body. It's toxic to your brain. It is toxic to you physically.
Just as bad as sugar.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And
maybe worse sometimes.
Yeah, totally. Especially like chronic stress is not good for you. And so there are so many things. I can't remember what your question was, actually.
The impact of
stress on our energy.
On our energy.
Yeah. So when your body is stressed out, and whether it is like a quick spike. So my son was in a car accident. I showed up. My cortisol went through the roof. Once things settled out after that, like a few hours later, I could have probably slept for 12 hours. Like, I was trashed. And it's because it takes a lot of energy to exert yourself when it comes to stress. If your cortisol goes up and your adrenaline goes up, all of your body systems are like going crazy, and that takes a lot of energy. And so then you naturally want to sleep. A lot of people talk about that. Also, if you have chronic stress, like starting from when you wake up to when you go to bed, then there's a lot of things that are happening physically and like with your neurotransmitters and electricity within your body to where you aren't functioning at your peak. And you probably realize this because like you can't stop thinking about the things that are stressing you out, or you're constantly diverting to here or diverting to there. And so stress is a vampire of our energy. It is sucking the energy from us. And if we allow that to happen, then we give it the energy that we need to have for other things. So learning how to manage your stress is a huge deal. And then that also, and I'll let Emmy talk about this, if you are stressed, you probably are not sleeping well. And poor sleep is the other vampire of energy. It'll suck the energy from you. We all have had all-nighters, or I remember in college thinking that like that was okay. That's how I get my stuff done, is I stay up all night long and I get all my work done. And then the next day you're super trash and you can't function well and your brain doesn't work well and you're super foggy. And then it makes you stressed out. It's like this horrible cycle that you go through. And I think that coupling like learning how to de-stress your body and de-stress your life and learning how to sleep well, because it is a skill. Sleeping well is a skill that sometimes needs to be taught, needs to be learned. That if you can master those two things alone, if there were only two things that you needed to do to have a healthier, more productive, and more energetic life, is to get control of your sleep and get control of your stress. Those two things.
And nutrition's up there, but I totally
It is,
agree.
but I put sleep
Yeah.
and stress above it when it comes to energy.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And we've talked about this a lot. In fact, we talked about it on our client Zoom earlier, and that is just really working towards becoming more stress resilient. Because we're all going to have stress in our lives. Like, that's a given. And not all stress is bad stress per se, but we're talking about long-term chronic stress that has a huge impact on our adrenals, which are energy centers, and it can lead to things like adrenal fatigue, which is really difficult to recover from. And if we can all start small, putting small practices that become habits in our daily life that actually affect everything else, it can allow our bodies to be in a state where when we do have that stress come our way, we could be more resilient to it so that it doesn't affect us as much. And so basically what that's doing is it's really understanding the difference between your sympathetic, which is like your fight and flight, and your parasympathetic, which is like your rest and digest. So if we can tap into our parasympathetic nervous system more, allowing our bodies to truly be able to relax even when we're in a stressful season, then it does exactly that. It provides restoration to our entire cellular structure, our nervous system, our immune system, our endocrine system, and it also allows our gut to appropriately assimilate nutrients, so pulling nutrients from your food, digesting your food, and sending the appropriate neurotransmitters to your brain so that you can have things like joy.
Yeah,
So-
and giving you the energy that you need. If you get control of those things, then we talk about energy credits. Like, everybody's given X amount of energy credits a day. Some people are given more just based on like who they are, their personality. It's kind of crazy, but we're all given energy credits, and we use those in different ways. And some days you use them up right away. Other days, you can prolong them and use them throughout the day. And we just want you guys to be able to have joy-filled, vibrant, energetic lives, because we all want that. And so if you know a little bit, if you can take a nugget or two from what we're chatting about today and apply that to your life, whether it's just like, I need to de-stress a little bit. I need to take, an hour for me every day to exercise because that makes me feel better. That energizes me. Then you need to do that for yourself. We're all about like caring for yourself first so that then you can care for the people you love better.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I want to talk about just a few tips on how you can become more stress resilient. They're all things we continually work on too. But I have a situation. A situation? I have a situation.
You do.
I have a scenario that has always stuck with me, and maybe I'll call it an exchange. Years ago, I said something to somebody. They said, "Hey, have you got X, Y, and Z done yet?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't had time." And he looked at me and he said, "It's not that you haven't had time. It's that you haven't made it a priority. And that's okay. It's okay to say it's not my priority, but own it." And so
Totally, which is why we're on two different phones, streaming
see-
to two different locations, because you know what? I don't really care.
yeah, and it's not like we only have a certain amount of minutes and hours in every day, and if we can actually be strategic about what we put our energy towards, it's going to help us move the needle a lot further. And if we go into the days, and I still do this sometimes, with the chaos of all the things that may need to be done, and you don't go into the day with a plan, and you don't start your day with gratitude, and you haven't taken a deep breath, and you're not, coming from a place of joy, like, it makes things harder and it makes your body not work best for you. And so some of the small tips, and we actually have a whole protocol that is almost finished for you guys, that is specifically for stress resilience. And a lot of the things that you can do, they're really simple. It's going back to basics, but they're important because it just sets that foundation for you to be able to, I almost see it as a shield, just things bouncing off the shield so that you can keep moving through your day with this protective bubble.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to picture
stress
that.
Shield.
Stress
we
shield.
all need to build a stress shield. Oh, we should we need a picture in bubbles.
I was going to say, she's got ideas, guys. Look out. Stress shields coming at you.
They're coming at you. I could even see what they look like.
Ooh,
we could decorate them.
Oh, man. They'll be for sale on the Macro Mavens website.
Okay, so some of the things that you can do, and a lot of this has to goes hand in hand with sleep as well. And that is, one, the night before you even go to bed, make a plan for your next day. Whether it be for your macros, for your nutrition, for your to-do list, for who you need to connect with, whatever it may be, because that lets you go into your night more rested with a plan, waking up with a plan, and you don't have that feeling of panic in the morning.
Do a brain dump. If you've got all kinds of stuff going on in your brain, have a notebook and do it in a notebook. Don't do it on your phone because you don't want your phone to be the last thing you look at before you go to bed, right?
Yep.
So have a notebook next to your bed. In fact, I should have done it last night. I laid in bed for 15 or 20 minutes last night. Just I don't know, my brain was just going.
Yeah.
Probably because we didn't meet yesterday and my day felt a little bit off, but
sorry.
It's okay. But do a brain dump. All the things that you're thinking about, that you're concerned about, that you're worried about, that are just occupying space, taking your energy, right, that you're going to use to sleep, write those things down and then get back to them in the morning. If it's enough to where you're going to think on it, then you should at least write it down and give it the time that it requires when you have the time, right? Because priority should be the sleep sleep should be the priority when it's bedtime.
Yeah, and we'll talk about sleep a little bit too, because all of these things just have such a profound impact on our energy. But just to wrap up stress resilience, we won't spend too much time on it. We do have a full overview for you guys, but some of the basics that we can all do are, one, really taking an inventory, being honest with yourself about what are the bigger stressors in your life, and of those, what can you change? Because we can't necessarily always change what is stressful in our life, but we can change how we react to it. Mm-hmm. And then going into your day with a plan, starting your day with gratitude, honestly, gratitude, and for me, prayer, it makes such a difference because you're going in with a thankful heart, and it makes the hard things a little bit easier, and it does change how our bodies actually respond to stress in terms of how much we tap into that sympathetic versus the parasympathetic nervous system, and then what happens to our cortisol. And once again, all of this affects our metabolism and our fat storage and our sleep. It's all tied in.
We've said it 1,000 times, that it's all married into this beautiful thing we call the human body.
It is. So it's recognition, it's strategy, it's having a plan, it's being grateful, it's truly writing things down, it's having a breathing practice, it's having outlets, it's having a good social circle, and if you don't, finding that. It's having somebody that you can truly strategize and talk to. It's surrounding yourself with people that you want to be more like. It's all of those things that really allow you to feel like you are moving in life.
Yeah.
And all of those then create a bigger stress shield or more stress resilience. And there's so many other specifics that we could get into. But if you find yourself in a constant state of what feels like overwhelming stress, please reach out to someone, because it doesn't have to be that way. There are strategies, and maybe it's significant enough that you need to work with a medical provider. Maybe you can work with a coach, maybe a counselor could help, whomever it is. But that constant feeling of overwhelm is so taxing to your body and your brain, and it doesn't have to be that way. There are some strategies that you can use that we're talking about right now. Nutrition is a huge one. Deep restorative sleep is a huge one. But so much of it is the psychological component of just the framework in which you're going into your day.
And I think too, our bodies are real smart. And if we are chronically stressed out, if we feel like we are fatigued every day, at some point our body will be whoa, I'm out.
Yeah.
And then you get sick or something happens. If you're living if you're brain foggy every day, all the time, if you're constantly fatigued, if you're overwhelmed, if you're anxious, I mean, there are a million different things that should trigger you to be like, whoa, I need to do something about this. But if you are feeling those things, fatigue every day, all day long, should be a red flag. You shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And something needs to change, because eventually your body will be like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then, we would hate for you to get sick, and oftentimes, and I feel like less so now, but in the years past, when I would push through the tiredness or the fatigue, and I'd go to the gym, whether I felt like I could or not, and I wasn't resting and I wasn't giving my body the proper amount of rest that I needed for energy production, I would get sick. And then my body was saying enough, you have got to slow down. And so the only way I would slow down is if I was sick. And so, our bodies are real smart. And eventually, if you keep going, you'll either hit burnout, which is a real thing, or you will get sick. And then you'll be forced to slow down and stop. So just be aware of that.
I'll just share a quick story because I think that it is super applicable and gives some data points. Years ago, I was in a constant state of stress. I had so much goodness in my life, but it's a lot, life can be a lot. And when you're grinding, for me, it was the grind. And I still grind, but I'd like to believe that I do it in a much more...
You're healthier about it now.
Yeah.
I feel you're just more aware.
Yeah.
I know her story. We didn't talk about it, but I know where she's going.
She does, yeah. And I definitely probably was suffering from some adrenal fatigue. I would appear super energetic because you just push through, but I wasn't getting adequate sleep at night. My nutrition was off. I couldn't get the physical changes that I wanted, no matter what I was doing.
She was super stressed out.
My stress was really high between work and mom and farm and all the things. Anyways, I tested my hormones, and at the time, and I was what people would. I was active. I was eating quasi-healthy, all the things that I thought I should be doing. But I was estrogen dominant, so I was producing too much estrogen, not enough progesterone, borderline hypothyroid, definitely had too much cortisol, and a whole gamut of other things. Estrogen dominance for me is really dangerous because I'm a BRCA mutation patient, meaning I have a really high propensity for breast and ovarian cancer. We won't get into all those details.
Maybe on another live, on another day.
But I have never, I take that back. I did do a pellet years ago, but outside of that, I've never used any form of prescription for hormones, not even bioidentical. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I definitely think there's a time and a place for it. However, simply through using strategies for really understanding how to
Well, wait, you didn't finish the story. She got super sick, you guys.
Yeah, so I got really sick. My body finally was enough is enough. And I was
real sick.
I was really sick, and I didn't have time for that. Nobody has time for that. And so even when I felt awful, you just push through. I wouldn't go to the doctor. I wouldn't do anything. I'm fine. Throw up in a cup on the way to work. It's
literally, she is not kidding. In fact, she gets teased about it a lot because she was on the freeway on her way to work. She was sick. We're you should go home. What are you doing? And she's I'm fine. And then it was we found out later, she's she threw up in a cup on her way to work. I was you need to go home.
Yeah, and that's just one of many. But my immune system was it was telling me enough is enough. And so a series of things happened, and I really shifted and said, you know what? I need to be the best version of myself for the people that I love the most, because I was burning the candle at both ends to an unhealthy degree. And I still had energy, but I was digging far too deep, and it was damaging. It probably will have lasting effects to my longevity. I like to believe that I've reversed some of that. I have reversed my
your hormone dominance.
No, that too, but my biological age. What is that called?
Yeah. Your biological age.
My biological age, yeah. So I've been able to reduce my biological age, which is basically based off of your body structure and all that. What is the age that it tags you to? I always want to keep younger than I actually am.
Same.
Anyways, so fast forward, and a big significant event happened in my life. One of them being I had to have a bilateral mastectomy and reconstruction and a number of things. But it gave me this window for the first time in my life to really be okay, I can move forward a little bit differently because I want to be here for my kids. And at that rate, I wasn't doing anybody any favors. I was surviving, but I wasn't thriving. And I wanted to thrive. And so that's when so many of the things that we naturally do now and that I'm still trying to improve upon, like deep restorative sleep, higher stress resilience, taking the time to truly make a plan, a breathing practice, a strong, I'd like to believe I've always had a strong prayer practice, but being more strategic with the way that I exercise and the way that I move my body, really using hydration to my benefits, appropriately supplementing, all of those things are what now fast forward. And when I get my hormones tested, which I'm due to do, I have optimal testosterone, estradiol, progesterone ranges naturally. I have an optimal thyroid. I have optimal cortisol levels most of the time. And that is all simply just doing the things that we're talking about today. And I have really high sustained energy almost all of the time.
Yeah.
And it's just all these simple practices that did not happen overnight. And I'm nowhere near perfect. I still have a lot of room for improvement, but it makes such a difference in just feeling good and being better for the people I love. So,
and if you can take like a little bit of our advice, I tell my kids all the time, like, we need to learn from other people's mistakes, right? So if you can take a little bit of a lesson from Emmy's experience and what she learned and apply that now before your body is like, I'm out, you're going to be super sick for a while so that you rest. That's all we want. We want you guys to be able to take a couple nuggets from this that you can apply immediately to help improve your energy and your longevity and just improve your life in general.
Yeah.
So learn from her mistakes.
Yeah,
I
seriously. I mean, really, and that's why I share, like, I'm an open book.
Yeah.
And we all have different stories. We all have a different level of stress resilience. We all have difficult things in life. And honestly, like, if we can create a tribe and we can learn from each other and we can start making some of these simple shifts that create healthier habits, like, it's amazing how those add up over time.
Yeah, and it's not rocket science.
No.
It's not. It's actually something that you can start right this minute. You can apply these things to your life immediately.
Yeah.
And so, like, are we into quick fixes when it comes to stress and energy? Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Super into it, right?
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want a quick fix.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, we've talked about a lot of them, like nutrition being huge, deep restorative sleep being huge, stress resilience being huge. I don't think we've talked about exercise yet, which we should probably go into.
It is, like, honestly my go-to.
Yeah, mine too.
And when I don't exercise, for one, I'm a terrible person.
She's never a terrible person.
I am a terrible person. My family will be like, could you please go for a walk? Or could you, probably just to get me out of the house. But no, I think that exercise is a really big deal. And especially if you are not somebody who has had like a history of exercise. I was an athlete in high school and a little bit in college. And so I think that, and I come from a home of people who are super active. Both of my parents were really, really active, are still. And I think that it kind of laid the foundation for me to be an active adult. But I don't function well if I don't move my body every single day. And it looks different every day. I go to the gym 3 days a week. I lift weights multiple times a week. I go for walks. I plant flowers. I dig in the dirt. I play in the garden. I play with my kids. It looks different. And I think that if you, at least for me, if I don't set aside that time, and it's not convenient. I don't like getting up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. I don't like it. But do I love it when it's over and I still have my entire day? Yeah. Yes. Is it worth it to me to like make that sacrifice? Without a doubt. Yeah. And I've done it for years and I hope to continue it. Yeah. And so moving my body is what starts my day and it's what ultimately ignites the fire in my energy bucket. Yeah. And it's what keeps me going. And I know it's the same for a lot of people. And I think, honestly, if I were to exercise in the evening or at night, I don't think I would sleep well.
Yeah, same.
Because on the days when I don't exercise, like if my body really needs rest, then, I'm cool with not exercising. Emmy didn't come out to the gym this morning, which is totally fine. Like, don't feel guilty if you are resting for your body's sake. Yeah. And that has been something that has been really hard for me to, like, actually apply to my life. Because if I were to miss a workout, I'd be like, well, I'm just throwing the day away, and it like this guilt like kind of seeps in, and it's not like if you aren't feeling well, or if you just need extra sleep for whatever reason, let your body rest, because you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't give yourself the amount of rest and restoration that your body needs to heal from exercise, to heal from whatever's going on in your life, whether it's stress, whether it is just life, right? We need to give our bodies the rest it needs. Otherwise, you end up burning the candle at both ends, and then you get sick. So
it is. And you don't have to go from 0 to 60. Like, we get asked all the time, do I have to exercise to do your program? Absolutely not. Like, if you're not already moving your body when you come to us, we're going to first really dial in your nutrition, because honestly, 80% of it is nutrition, if not more. However, in time, we're going to start really working with you on moving your body, but it can be simple. It can be just walking every day, because not only are there obviously health benefits to all of your bodily systems, but there's a ton of cognitive benefits, like Haley just talked about. And honestly, exercise is my biggest stress resilience factor.
Yeah, it's like a drug. It's like a feel-good drug. And if you haven't experienced it, give us a call. Yeah. And you can come to Higgs Gym in the morning, and we'll give you a little bit of a dose of Macro Mavens movement in the morning.
Oh, I love it.
There we go.
I love it.
I just rebranded our class.
I love it. And it can be simple. Like, I love early morning workouts. I love it. I don't particularly love getting up. But now I'm just wide awake because my body has adjusted to that.
She really only has like a 5-second commute.
I do. But man, it really makes a huge impact on my energy throughout the day. So you might not be a morning person. Maybe morning isn't the best time for you to work out. But if you get into a consistent regimen, it really does have an impact on your energy. And I know energy is what we're talking about today. Obviously, it has an impact on everything else too. I did write down here, one of the things from an exercise specific standpoint is that when you're exercising, it's going to give your cells more energy to burn oxygen, which we want to have happen. It's going to allow the oxygenation throughout your cellular structure, which helps with energy.
Drives oxygen to your muscles, to all of your organs. Our body internally wants that oxygen.
And then it also has an impact on your dopamine levels in your brain. And that goes back to that whole, especially if you're then allowing yourself to rest, you get into that parasympathetic, your gut is working appropriately, you can rest and digest, your neurotransmitters are going to your brain, dopamine is going to be optimal, which is really going to help with mood, cognition, which then boosts energy further. Like, it's this beautiful, this beautiful harmony. And honestly, it can very easily be a hurricane. And so you want to shift from the hurricane to the harmony.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of the best. I don't say that because I don't say that because I work out a lot. Like, I say it because it's true. Like, I work out because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And I feel good because I work out.
I love it. I love it. Okay, guys, we have talked about the tips and tricks. For those of you that are just joining us, we started really talking about how energy is created in the body. And now we're talking about tips and tricks to naturally boost energy. We talked about the profound impact of nutrition, and we jumped into that. We talked about the impact of stress and becoming more stress resilient. We talked about exercise. We touched on sleep. And we've talked about sleep so much that I'm just going to say we have a deep sleep protocol on the toolbox of our website. It's a free resource for anybody. If you go to macromavens.life, you click on toolbox. It's called Deep Sleep Protocol. It takes you through a whole handful of things that you can do to naturally set yourself up to get better, deep, restorative sleep, to increase the REM and the deep sleep that you are getting, so that's when your body cleans itself out. So just really quickly, if you're not getting that deep restorative sleep, your cellular centers, we'll call them, your cells, are not able to like scrub and clean themselves out. And you have all this gunk in there, which then you feel in your energy. So
brain fog, anxiety, just overall not feeling well. Oftentimes it's because your body isn't cleaning itself out at night.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's a big deal.
Like Haley said, prioritizing your stress resilience and your sleep is like number one for your health and your energy. Like, it truly is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Not health. Sleep, stress, nutrition.
Yeah.
It's the trifecta.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. And then let's talk about caffeine for a minute, because I think Haley touched on this too. I think caffeine has a time and a place for sure.
It's
There
a
can
tool.
be some really healthy benefits to caffeine.
Supplement.
It is a supplement. I think it should be used wisely because unfortunately what happens is when you have excessive caffeine use, especially afternoon caffeine use, it then disrupts your sleep, or it can disrupt your sleep. And it also then can have an impact on your endocrine system and everything else. And so if you are one that is relying upon caffeine, excessive amounts of caffeine or late day caffeine, just starting to make that shift in itself and trying to substitute that with water can make a huge difference in your energy over time. There might be a couple of hard days or a hard week, but that transition happens pretty quickly.
It does. And I'm an on caffeine, off caffeine person. I kind of go all in or all out. And right before spring break, I was like, you know what? I just don't want to, I don't like feeling like I'm a slave to anything. And I would wake up in the morning and I'd have I'd go to the gym and then I'd come home and I'd have a cup of coffee. And I was like relying on that caffeine to get me through like the morning. And I was like, that's so dumb. Like I don't need that at all. And so I started drinking, I still drink coffee. I drink decaf. I've been caffeine free now since, I don't know, March.
It's impressive. I'm not.
And I feel amazing. I feel
Yeah.
great. And I will say, and anything that does this to me is like kind of like, oh, I don't know. I probably shouldn't be on the bandwagon. It took me probably 4 or 5 days, and I wasn't drinking a lot of coffee, you guys. 1 cup of coffee, and honestly, it was half calf. I only had I drink espresso, so it was like 2 shots of caffeinated espresso and 2 shots of decaf. And it took me maybe 4 or 5 days before I didn't have a headache anymore.
Yeah.
And so for me personally, and this isn't true for everybody, I was like, if I'm putting something in my body that I have to detox from, that it's going to give me a headache for about a week before it's out of my system, like I just don't want that in me. And so, and I was also really worried. I was like, I'm just not going to be able to like power through the day without it. And it's a bunch of baloney. I think I have more energy without it.
I love that. I'm not.
I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to be challenged
okay,
there.
and that's
because
okay. You don't have to be.
I love that you've done that. And I love that for you. And I didn't
I
drink
love
coffee.
that for you.
I love that for you. I didn't drink coffee. I even slung it for a
Yeah.
lot of years. I did not drink coffee my entire life until I was like 30 something.
It just wasn't that long ago. I remember
Yeah,
when you didn't.
I'm 40 now, but
she didn't-
sometime
you
in my
didn't
30s
you
I
didn't like
started.
it,
Yeah, and then it's just become this thing that like it is. It's a ritual.
But she
in the
did
morning.
drink. She did drink iced tea
I did.
like a lot.
And I don't
of iced
much
tea.
anymore. Occasionally I'll have one, but
Yeah.
so I did drink caffeine. But I don't know. There are some benefits to caffeine.
Yeah,
And I just take that my morning cup of coffee that I love. I love a really good cup of organic.
Here we go.
Medium
She
roast.
has given you this
high
recipe.
altitude grown coffee with 1 scoop of chocolate collagen powder for that extra 10 grams, 1 drop of peppermint essential oil, 3 tablespoons of nut pod creamer, and 1 to 2 stevias all frothed up is like,
You guys have heard the recipe
it
100
takes
times.
me into my parasympathetic nervous system.
She has this love relationship. It is like this. It's like this deep-seated love affair with
I
her
love
morning
it.
coffee. And I'm not asking her to give it up. I'm just saying switch to decaf. It tastes the exact same.
Well, and I think that I could, but I still believe that in moderation, there are some
I
pretty
do too.
significant benefits to caffeine consumption if you're being wise about it, and if the coffee that you're consuming isn't super sugar ridden,
Yep.
and isn't super toxic, because a lot of coffees have a lot of mold and a lot of things. So doing like an organic medium roast, high altitude grown.
I agree with her. I absolutely agree with her. Right now, I'm off the caffeine
love it.
boat, and it works for me.
I don't like having something I'm dependent on, so that would be the reason
Well-
why I would be like, because I am. I really look forward to that morning
Well, and I
coffee.
think that too for me is like, okay, when you have something every day like that, like your body gets used to it, right? And so it gets used to like how you feel and how it reacts every day. And I honestly don't think that the caffeine was giving me the benefits that I was thinking it was.
Sure.
And so now, like if I go on a long road trip, I'll have a cup of coffee with caffeine, and I feel like I'm like full of bees, like
Yeah.
which I kind of like.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Interesting. Well,
To
okay,
each
so
their
all
own.
of that is to say that If you find yourself relying on caffeine throughout the day to keep your energy levels up, you're probably using it irresponsibly. And so if
Be
you...
a responsible caffeine drinker.
Yes. And so if you can limit it to 1 cup, that is best case scenario. If that can be early in the day, that is best case scenario. If you can start replacing any caffeinated beverages, especially if they have sugar in them, with water, because we're going to talk about the impact of hydration on energy, it's amazing what a difference it can make. And not only that, but a lot of people that drink coffee are drinking high sugar coffee drinks. And so just eliminating some of those makes a huge impact on their health, their metabolism, and their fat storage.
Amen, sister.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of drinking, let's talk about alcohol and its impact on energy.
Yeah. She just puts it out there. I don't know what we're going to talk about, so... No, I guess that's
okay. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's just start at the okay, so alcohol, a lot of people imbibe.
What was that?
Imbibe. If you imbibe, like you drink alcohol.
Imbibe?
Imbibe.
What's that?
I just told you. It's like to imbibe is like to drink alcohol, right? It's a verb. It's a verb. Okay. We'll keep it
new.
We'll keep it simple. A lot of people drink alcohol. Which is totally fine.
E-M-B-I-B.
The spelling of it is questionable. I'm not sure. Anyway, a lot of people drink alcohol. I like alcohol every now and again. Actually, probably within the last 2 years, I've almost completely eliminated my alcohol consumption. I'll have a drink every now and again, maybe less than once a month. Because I know and I've learned what it does to my body, and I just I want to take care of myself. So the biggest thing that alcohol, from my perspective, does to your energy levels is, for one, oftentimes people drink it in the evenings, right? Yeah. And so you'll have a glass of wine, you'll have whatever your drink of choice is, a beer or whatever it is, in the evenings, and then it makes you tired. Like, that's what alcohol does. It kind of slows your body down. It makes you tired. And a lot of people use it to help them fall asleep. The problem with that is, and I've tracked it, I have this little Oura ring, right? And I've tracked it, is you don't get good restorative sleep if you drink alcohol the night before. And also, your body is going through all kinds of metabolic shifts when you drink alcohol in order to process it through your liver. And it takes a long time. So all that's to say is, yes, alcohol has a place. Is it fun to go out and have a drink with your girlfriends? Yes. If you go out with this one, you don't need to, because she's a party all the time. And so anyway, I think the biggest impact on energy alcohol has, in my opinion, and this is not scientific, is it really affects your sleep, which then impacts your energy stores for the next day.
There is research showing the impact of alcohol on sleep.
Yeah, and I don't know what that data looks like. Yeah. I just know personally, for me, like, I fall asleep quickly, but which isn't a problem for me anyway, but I don't get good deep sleep, and I don't get good REM sleep. In fact, my sleep becomes almost all light sleep, which is not what you want. It's not restorative. And so then you wake up. That's why people wake up hungover and they feel like garbage the next day. Too much alcohol, your sleep really suffers. So
it does. And not to mention, just depending on your drink of choice, what that does, even from a calorie consumption standpoint, a digestion standpoint, like Haley was talking about, like the role of the liver, and your ability for your cellular structure to be working appropriately for you, what it does to you cognitively. And it does, like we talk about sleep, deep restorative sleep, having a huge impact on energy, on metabolism, on all the things. And it really can make an impact.
Can you have alcohol if you're on a macro plan?
Absolutely. And, a large majority of our clients do. They fit it in, and they just make sure they track it and they work around it. We do have our clients track it as fat because of how the liver processes it, even though it's not necessarily fat.
My son is on here, and he's supposed to be in school. I'm sorry, asymatics. You pay attention to your class. I'm going to tell your teacher. Sorry, guys.
No, I will say, though, most all of the time, if a person, especially if they don't consistently drink, and then they do have a drink, even though it's not fat per se, the scale's going to spike the next day because your body's going to retain water, you're going to be inflamed. It creates an almost instant inflammatory response. Yeah. Because let's face it, people don't want to hear this, but alcohol's poison. So we're putting poison in our body, and our body's going to be inflamed. Like, it has an acute inflammatory response. And so we are going to have a spike on the scale. That doesn't mean it's fat. You do need to flush it with a lot of water, but it does have an impact on your metabolism over time. Does that mean you have to completely abstain from alcohol? No. If it's important to you, you want to have a good time, fit it in, be responsible.
Yep.
If we have clients that are consistently drinking every single night, if they're open to it, we're going to have a conversation with them about how we can maybe make some small shifts.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Great.
Okay, we got to wrap this up.
Yeah, we are just like yap.
We are. Let's talk about water, and then let's wrap it up with a pretty little bow.
Let's do it. Because we've talked about caffeine and alcohol and how you should probably limit those things. Let's talk about water. Should you limit the amount of water you drink in order for your energy consumption? No, your body needs so much water. We tell our clients, shoot for a gallon a day. A gallon a day is probably more water than most people need. I say that because generally speaking, in order to have a hydrated body, you need half of your body weight in ounces of water every day. If you don't have that, your body is going to have to work extra hard, using up more energy that it could be using for other things in order to function well, right? It's like, so if you think about, we were talking about like fuel for your car as an energy source. So water for your body is like the oil that you put in your car. So like if you don't put oil in your car, eventually your car is not going to run. If you don't put water in your body, eventually your body is not going to work.
Yep.
You have to have the water. Your body needs it to stay alive and to function at its best. So on that note, take a sip of water,
Yep.
and I'm sure Emmy has a lot more to say.
You guys, it's so true. Like energy, one of the biggest things that we can all do to have an immediate impact on our energy is water. So starting your day with a glass of water before you do anything else can make a huge difference. Making sure that you have some type of a water jug. I have several that I love.
That's a new one.
It is. I actually bought it for my husband, but it was more feminine than I thought, and so I kept it for myself.
There you go.
Having a water bottle in your home, in your car, at work, wherever it is that is easily reachable. If you don't love plain water, mix it up a little bit with a little bit of fruit or some cucumbers or something like that. If you love sparkling water, that's great, but I love sparkling water, but try to drink regular water until at least the afternoon.
She
Then
has
you can
a
switch to
rule.
sparkling water.
She has to drink 2 of these big boys
Yep.
before she allows herself a sparkling water every day.
Sparkling water is still hydrating. It's still water. It's just if that's all I drink, there are some negative
a lot of
connotations
carbon.
to it. So yeah, there it is. So anyways, water has a profound impact because of course our cellular structure wants to be hydrated. We talked about how energy actually is created in the body. And if your cells are hydrated and your mitochondria can be those little energy centers that we need and your ATP production is at its peak, it's going to happen with a hydrated cell. And so just drink your water.
It's easy, right? It's so easy. It's a nugget you can take away from what we're talking about right now. You can apply it immediately for immediate benefit.
Yeah, we
Drink
absolutely
your water.
can. And we were talking about caffeine a minute ago, and I saw that Lindsay with Outsider jumped on here. Hello.
Hi. Are you gonna?
Yeah, so I'm gonna just give a little bit of an Easter egg. I hope that's okay. I won't share too much, but we're super excited to have a Macro Maven monthly mix that might or might not be available at some Outsider stands coming to you soon. So I'll just stop it with that. But
Yeah.
we're really excited to make it easy for you guys to be able to
Excited
to have a great drink that is macro friendly and easily log it and support the amazing Outsider group. So
yeah, that's
anyways,
just a little nugget. Be looking for that in the near future.
We're
really excited.
Okay, guys, so let's wrap this up. So we have been talking about all things energy, how to naturally increase it, how to sustain it, how to protect it. We didn't actually have an opportunity to really jump into energy suckers, so we'll probably need to do that on another.
Well, we talked about lack of sleep and stress,
That's
which are the
true.
2 biggest energy suckers out there.
That's true. Okay, so we talked about nutrition being huge in terms of appropriately fueling your body, not underfueling, not overfueling, making sure that you understand what your body and your brain needs. And there's a way to do that. It doesn't have to be complicated. Really trying to stick to whole foods whenever possible, eliminating excess sugars, processed foods, seed oils. All of those things lead to inflammation, which leads to a downregulation of your energy. We also talked about stress resilience. Stress has a huge negative impact on our ability to keep sustained energy up. So going through some of those tips that we talked about in terms of really creating that stress shield, we can't entirely eliminate stress from our life, but we can change how we become more resilient to it. We talked about how critical deep restorative sleep is for everything in our life, our endocrine system, our immune system, our metabolism, our ability to shed fat, and our energy. It's so, so big. As Haley said, stress and sleep are going to be the two biggest things, probably even more so than nutrition.
Yeah.
We talked about being responsible with our caffeine intake, and really trying to minimize caffeine late in the day, being aware as to what you're coupling with your caffeine.
Drink decaf. You can drink it all day long. You can go to Outsider Coffee and drink a decaf right now if you want to.
You sure can. We talked about minimizing alcohol and the impact of alcohol on, once again, all of our bodily systems. We talked about, yeah.
She was looking at her notes. I knew what was coming. Yes, we talked about water. That was what we talked about next.
Yeah. Yep. Just the hydrating factor and how our cells and, I mean, everything works better for us when we stay hydrated.
Yeah.
And so, you guys, these are all basics. We didn't talk about supplementation at all. I never want it to feel like this is a lead-in into a supplement sale. I will say, if you...
But this is a lead-in
yeah,
to a supplement sale.
it's actually not even on my list,
No.
but I will say I'm obsessed with our Mighty Metabolism. If you are interested in, if you're doing all the things, there's no such thing as a magic pill. But if you, in my opinion, in our opinion, but if you were doing all the things, if you were truly focusing on sleep, if you're trying to get your nutrition in, if you're getting natural sunlight, which we didn't talk about today, if you're hydrating yourself, all of those things, and you want extra supplementation, that's exactly what a supplement should be. It's supplementing the other things that you're already doing. We've put together a mix that is so phenomenal for metabolic support, really, in terms of how your body is processing your food, how it's breaking down your fat, and also, I think one of the things, we didn't market it this way, but the biggest piece of feedback that we get from all of anybody that's taking it is the sustained energy, the non-jittery sustained energy that they feel from it. And honestly, that's, like, you don't always get to feel immediately the other things that it's doing, but you do feel the
That
energy.
was the very first thing I noticed when I started taking it. A lot of times, like, you take a supplement and you're like, I don't know if it's working at all.
Yeah.
And this was like, whoa, I have sustained even energy all day long. It's actually my favorite thing about it.
Yeah, it really is. And so we've talked about a lot today, you guys, but man, energy and how you increase it, protect it, maintain it, it's so important for you, for the people that you love. So really work on dialing in that nutrition, on prioritizing deep restorative sleep, on becoming more stress resilient, on being aware of your caffeine and your alcohol intake.
Exercise daily.
Keeping your water up, like all the things. If you guys have questions anytime, please reach out. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, our website, macromavens.life.
YouTube, TikTok.
We're
all the places. We're not very active on TikTok yet.
Not yet. We gotta
channel our inner 16-year-old because TikTok's a little bit of a rough spot for us.
Oh man.
Anyway.
If you're interested in learning more about our coaching services, you can hop over to macromavens.life, click hop on board. It doesn't commit you to anything, but it lets one of our coaches connect with you, answer any questions, see if we're a good fit. Man, we have the best Macro Mavens community. It's awesome.
It is the best, and we're growing, and it is just, you guys, it is like, I get so much joy and energy from interacting with our community, and you guys too. It's just, I am a very blessed and lucky person.
Yeah, me too.
So thank you guys for being our friends. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching. And check us out at macromavens.life if you haven't already.
The toolbox also has a bunch of the free resources that we talked about today. So anyways, have a great week. We hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day. I don't think we even said that.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's because it's Tuesday. It feels weird.
It does.
The rest of my week is going to feel a day off.
I know. It's all my fault.
No, it's not. Have a great week, you guys.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.